Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. And also one more thing before we get into the video, if you enjoy what I do here, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me out and lets me know you enjoy the video. But with all that out of the way, let's get into that video.
Okay, so you can see we've got our knight here, and I've given him a nice black prime. Since we're doing spooky Halloween episode, we want to of course start with our black prime. Where would we be if we didn't start with black? So what we're going to do after that is we're going to get our metallic color. For this I'm using a gunmetal here, and what I'm doing is I'm dry brushing, and I'm going to give it a good dry brush over everywhere that's metallic. Since we have a nice knight here, he's dressed in really heavy armor, so we want to give this a really good coat with our dry brushing. And since I've been doing this new dry brushing technique, which I'll put a link for in the video and put it up in the corner there so you can go to that video if you want to see how I do my dry brushing now. I really do like the way it's come out, and I really enjoyed learning about that, and I've enjoyed how much my dry brushing skills have leveled up since doing that. So if you want to see that, I've got the video up there. But as you can see, we've got a lot of metallic area, so make sure we get a good coating with that dry brush, just slowly working it in nice circles, giving it a light pass each time. Now we have that metallic areas done, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with a burnt umber, this nice deep dark brown, and what I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be using this to paint his shield. Now one cool thing about this miniature in particular is his shield is the lid of a coffin. I thought that's really cool. So what I'm going to do is of course give that a good overall coat. I'm going with a nice deep dark wood here. Totally use what any colour you wanted here. Now you could also use black, but I want to try and leave out on too much of the black. We're going to do, you know, he's a Halloween night and he's going to have a lot of sort of darker colours in here, and I'm saving one big bright spot for later, but I want to keep everything muted, but not make everything black. I want to be a little bit more interesting than that, so that's why I chose the brown with our coffin lid. Then once we have his shield complete, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with some cavalry brown, and this is a nice quick step. I'm just going to be using this to be painting up the little dagger he has on his belt there. Just something to give a little bit of extra colour in there, totally up to you. You could have also just used the plain brown that we just used from our shield to do on here, but I want to add in just a little bit more colour, so just a little spot colour there, give it something a little more interesting to look at. So one thing on this miniature, he has a couple of adornments on his armor here, and what I'm going to do is one of them is a skull, so I'm going to actually paint that up as a proper skull. So I want to use, I'm going to start off with a khaki color here, and I'm going to give that as the nice base coat. So I want to make it an actual skull, because this could totally easily just be a nice little bit of ornamentation, what you could keep with the gunmetal color that you use, or whatever silver color you use to paint up the armor. Totally make that a nice adornment piece, but I want to make that an actual skull. We're going with our spooky Halloween theme, so we want to put a proper skull on there. So now what we're going to be doing is I'm going to come in with another metallic color here. This is going to be brassy brass, and I'm going to be using this for some of the detailing parts on our metallic area. So he has this another nice little bit of adornment, sort of like a coffin shaped pattern that he has on here. I want to be painting that with our brass color. As well as that, I'm also going to be using the nice sort of elaborate pattern he has on the top of his coffin lid, or his shield as he's using it here, and I thought that would be really cool. So rather than doing that in a silver or a black, I want to come in with a nice brass color, which is going to really give us some nice visual interest to the piece.
Everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits. Don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with
Okay, so now we've got that completed. What we're going to do now is come in and paint his cloak. I'm going to be using dark stone to do this. This is a very sort of muted dark brownish color. It's a lot deeper than our burnt umber that we use for our shield, and this is gonna go great. You could totally do a black cloak here. I thought that was a little bit sort of boring to do, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add washes to it later and darken it down that way. Just going different. What I wanted to do is I wanted to make this Halloween miniature and that, but I wanted to, and you know, spooky sort of thing like that, but I wanted to try and not use black really, except for in a couple of like really small places like the shadows and stuff like that. Of course I want to try and avoid that. I'll try to still see if I can give off a Halloween sort of tone without using black. So now we have all this complete. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give everything a complete covering of our black wash here. Now this is the reason why I didn't want to do everything black. is I wanted to, like I said, use colours that were still give off the sort of Halloween and spooky-ish sort of vibe without using black itself, because I knew I was going to come in with a black wash and tone everything right down while still keeping everything interesting without it just being black on black. The only places I do want to avoid with this black wash is I do want to avoid it on our skull there and on our brass areas. I'm going to come in with a different wash and do those a bit later. So as we have that black wash dried, what I'm going to do now is come in with a brown wash, and this is what I'm going to be using for everything else. Now, one thing I did just forget to mention is that the shield, I also forgot to leave out saying that I didn't give the shield a black wash. I'm going to use the brown wash, as you can see here, to do that. So basically what I'm doing is, for the brown wash, I'm going to be using it over the shield, over the skull, and over everywhere that we didn't place our black wash, which is a very small area. It's basically the shield and the skull and the little bit of ornamentation that he has as sort of like a coffin on his other part of his shoulder there. So nice and simple. Now that we have our washes completely dry, what I'm going to do is going to come in with some highlights now. And the first highlight I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using it for the cloak. Now, of course, I'm just going to be using the exact same color I used for the initial here. So this is the dark stone, and I'm going to be using this for highlighted areas. Now, like I said, I want to keep everything sort of a little bit muted, except for a couple of key areas, and that's like our metallic areas and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be adding any whites or anything to try and brighten it up a bit. I'm just going to go with the dark stone over here to use as the highlights and keep that cloak nice and dark. Okay, so now we have that cloak complete. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with some skeleton bone. And this, of course, is to highlight our skull. We start off with the khaki there, giving it a nice brown wash, and I'm just going to come in and highlight it with skeleton bone, as the name implies. Give it that nice, bright, vibrant skeleton looking color. So that's nice and simple there, just the one spot, so nice and easy to touch up. Okay, so now we have that complete. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using shining silver, and this is going to be to highlight our metallic colors. So nice fine point on my brush here, making sure that I've got it, and I'm just going around and skimming the edges of where the sort of sun is naturally going to glint off there. Now you can do it for a lot of the edges of our armor here, giving that nice real shiny look, and I'm just going around picking out some key points. One area I'm going to pay a little bit of attention to is he's got a little bit of like scale armor on his sort of skirt area, so I want to be painting those up with that just to give it a different overall look, and I want to make them sort of really shiny compared to his armor, which we've purposely kept a little bit dark. And I'm going to keep going around and picking out little places like the edges and where the points of armor naturally meet, stuff like that, to show off that is where the sun is shining off and bouncing, giving that really highlighted color with our shining silver. Then once we've highlighted all of our silver areas, what I'm going to do is come back in with our brassy brass once again, and this is to highlight our brass areas. Now, if you wanted to take it to the next level a little bit more, you could also add in a little bit of the silver that we used in our last step, mix it in sort of 50-50 mix, or whatever you feel is sort of nice to use that brighter highlight. Now, I wanted to keep the brass a little bit duller than that, so I just stick with the straight brassy brass color here, and I'm just using it again at the top points of the areas, using the edge of my brush to skim along the tops, especially on this nice detailed surface we have here on his coffin shield. I'm just going around and skimming it with the edge of my brush to catch the highlights nice and easily. Okay, so now we have all that complete. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go for the nice big pop of color I want in this, and I'm going to use gryph hound orange to do this, and this is to be painting up his nice pumpkin head or helmet that he has here. Totally up to you what you think it is, if it's a head or a helmet. I'm not sure myself. I think it's probably a cool pumpkin knight. So as you can see here, awesome bright vibrant color. As well as that too, I also gave a dry brush to the head before we started placing our contrast paint over it. Now this was just using the exact same technique we used at the start with dry brushing our armor, but just concentrated on the head. And you can see with that contrast paint we get an immediate result, and we can see those nice highlights and shadows with our dry brushing. Then once we have that complete, there's just one little part to finish it off. I'm going to use a nice dark green here. This is going to be angel green, and I'm just going to use it to paint a little bit of the stalk on his pumpkin head there. But with that, we have finally finished completing our Halloween night. So let's go to those glamour shots to see how it came out. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up our Halloween night. So I thought this would be a fun little project to do over this time of year, celebrating the Halloween and the spooky season. So I thought this would be something cool to do. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, guys, and I hope you can use this video as some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures as well. But I'd just like to say what a great time I had painting this up. Nice and super simple and easy. But with all that said, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.